Welcome to the Power Project Efficient Project Management for Interiors Companies webinar. My name is Jason Yip. Just some housekeeping, so you can minimize the GoToWebinar panel by clicking on the icon that you can see on the screen there. You can type any questions that you may have into the question box and I will answer that at the end. I am recording this session. It should last 30 minutes long and we will be sending it out to you via email afterwards. So just to talk about the running order, I'm going to go through an introduction of Alicosoft, the case for Power Project, a demonstration of Power Project, and then any questions at the end. So Alicosoft aims to be the leading provider of software solutions serving the full life cycle of a building, from conception and design to facility management. Alicosoft have a global presence headquartered in the UK with offices in Sweden, Germany, Netherlands, Spain, Belgium, Canada, and the US. Alicosoft's objective is to improve the operational efficiency of its customers by decreasing their risk through the deployment of an increasingly integrated portfolio of software solutions. We have 50,000 supported professional users, 730,000 licenses, and 14,200 supported business customers. So here we have the suite of products that we have. Interior market is something that you may be interested in for marketing your interior products, including PIM and DAM systems. We've got Archon Evo, which is a design package with CAD tools for residential and large-scale projects, coupled with O2C for you to integrate your products and have them be interactive, animated, and in 3D, so you can integrate them into websites, Word documents, PowerPoint, and digital catalogs. We've got BidCon here, which is a costing and estimating tool. Power Project, of course, is the focus of today's webinar for planners and project managers. And Icon System is a building information management platform for managing every digital asset, including information like specs and standards, everything about a project. So very popular with retail, with 7 of the out of the top 10 retailers using Icon. There's even a Icon VR, so you can visualize your space with a 3D walkthrough. And then we've got Shire System, who have a product called Piranha, and that's really good for maintenance and property management, facilities management. So at the end of a building, all the information about an asset, what needs to be done, when, where you get it from, all the kind of different information, and it even speaks to a mobile application for the facilities manager as well. And then at the bottom there, we've got some other products for for very specific engineering areas. So a staircase design piece of software, framing software as well. So if you're interested in any of these, you can contact us on our details that I'll provide at the end by phone or email. Someone will be able to get back to you to offer you further information, demonstrations, trials of these software products. So let's look at Power Project. I want to start by posing some questions. So what are you using at the moment to manage projects? Does it encourage or discourage use? Are you just using spreadsheets? Are you using clunky software with information dispersed in other areas? Are you managing resources at all? Or how are you managing resources? Is that in a separate spreadsheet to where your program is, for example? You may have multiple sites, factories, offices, and departments. Are they speaking together? Are they able to collaborate about project information? How accurate is it? And how long does all of this take? So are there often a lot of meetings, phone calls, discussions about the status of projects, or how to tackle achieving projects on time, within budget, and within the resource pool that you have? And how on track are you? So are you able to clearly show a report that shows exactly where you are right now on your projects in terms of how to budget you are, how on track according to the plan that you are, and how can you empower people to plan who may not be planners, but they may be in finance or design, they might be in other areas of the business. How can you encourage them to use programming and project management software? So let's look at the case for Power Project. So why would you look at it? I mean, market conditions means that you may need to innovate. So often companies will look to the planning department for to look at changing something. If we continue doing the same thing, we can't expect a different result. We've got to keep innovating. Clients make changes to the specification. How can we show the knock-on effects of those to the client? How can we show what that's going to do to the end date, to the cost? Bosses and clients require clear reports. Are you able to provide those clear reports? Maybe you're reactive instead of being proactive. So, we may be piling a load of resources onto a specific job to get it done where something else is suffering, or we're reacting to things. We haven't got as much control. Is project data in multiple places, in multiple formats? So you might have your resource plan sitting with one department or person. You might have a finance plan somewhere else, the costs, cash flow, and then the actual program of tasks elsewhere. So are they all separate or in different places and different formats? And also, who's doing what and when? How many people do you have to do a specific task at any given moment? How do you know who's available to do what? And are you using clunky software? So, it could be that you're just using software that's frustrating to get the kind of printout or the output that you want, or to to be able to link things in the way that you want them to be linked. So it doesn't really encourage you to want to use it. Just want to talk about a case study here. We've got a company, Brown and Carroll of London. They're long-term Power Project users, and they're not missed a handover for 25 years. They've got a reputation to maintain, and they were looking to expand to other markets, so they wanted to focus on good planning. They then moved to what's called Power Project Enterprise, which is more of a live collaborative environment where you can have multiple people managing resources across multiple projects in a live environment. That involves a different kind of IT setup. A lot of time companies will progress from standard Power Project to Enterprise. And yeah, it's just, you would require a database, SQL database, where files reside, and that allows for that environment to happen. So looking at Power Project then, it's one system for managing tasks, projects, resources, costs, and progress reporting. You can raise early warning flags and present a clear knock-on effect of changes and delays. Manage group of activities to apply for specific needs linked to a particular drawing for a particular location, and then you can assign resources to it. It's an easy to use system with a lot of drag and drop functionality. It's often said that the printout output is very superior compared to other products. You can create your own borders with logos and decide what information goes into that. And as a company here, we've got technical support people, trainers, consultants, sales and marketing, all under one roof in Haddon and Buckinghamshire. The software itself is developed from Telford, but they're all on hand to help people on a daily basis. And then we've got a flexible licensing model as well. So whether you want to log in on a web page to use the software, whether you require multiple users on a concurrent server-based license, or maybe just individual licenses for individual machines, we do have all of those areas covered. We've also got free viewers as well that people can have installed, so they can view what's going on instead of actually taking up a license. So I've opened Power Project now, and we're going into the live demonstration of the software part of this webinar. Just to go through what we've got here, we've got three main areas. We've got a project view on the left-hand side. We've got the column-based table area and then the Gantt chart area. So basically, I'm in the middle here of putting together these three projects. So we've got this retail fit-out project, and that's represented by this line here. And that's made up of three different other projects. So a coffee shop unit, phone shop, a retail store refit. So we can break this down to any level of detail that we like. So if we go into the coffee shop, we're looking at the summaries that make up that coffee shop fit out. So we've got the project start, deliveries, site setup, asbestos and roof work. And then on the Gantt chart here, we've got the various tasks that make that up. And it's easy to create tasks. We can just draw them out straight on the Gantt chart. So that's how I've done that. And we can pull out this link here. So once that finishes, that's going to start. Once that finishes, that's going to start. But we can have also midway through links. So after 2 days of that, that's going to start. And then all we need to do is reschedule. And that will move that into order in terms of logic against the timeline. So I've already done that with these tasks. I've got a visit by project manager here, trade counter lockdown, various other tasks. We've got the duration, which is a day, and we've actually got a lead lag on this task. So we've got a 6-day lead lag until the next one starts, and then 4 and 5 can start at the same time. The critical path is automatically identified, which is highlighted in red, but we can turn that off if we didn't want it. And if there was float on these tasks, then we can also turn that on as well, meaning that we can complete this task anytime up until there, until it affects our finish date. But we can turn those off if we didn't want them. And we've got a flexible date zone along the top, which we can collapse things in and expand things out. So back to this project view area here, where our sort of tree is. Then this is where we've also got our resources, various costs, and code libraries. So what we're able to do with code libraries is we can have as many codes as we want created that can mean anything that we like. So for example, here, I've got different phases: design, manufacture, installation. I've got a trade contractor code library, Nigel's Plumbing, for example. If I right click and go to properties, then all it is a name of something with a name and a color and a pattern. And we drag and drop these codes onto our tasks to identify what they are. So I've got a code on here, so that's basically telling me that that's with a PM visit. So if I right clicked on there and open that breakdown structure, I can see all of the tasks that belong to that code. So we've got a PM visit with all of these tasks. Let's see what the site manager's doing. We've got all of these milestone tasks here that are listed that relate to the site manager, and so on and so forth. So it can be anything that you like, and these have just been created for us as a demonstration, but yours may be different to that. So yeah, I want to look at now just basically managing resources. So I've created these programs, created these tasks and summaries. I want to look at allocating some resources to them. So if I go to resource and resource entry, I have a different view that I've configured, because what we're able to do is basically create as many tables that we like. We can just right click and add a column into here about anything that we want, and we can configure any kind of table that we like. So I've got some resources here: painters, plasterers, project managers. I've got their allocation, effort, and the start and finish of a task. But I've got these histograms below here. So this is these histograms are basically graphs that are going to get built up, that are going to be populated when I allocate my resources. So under resources in the project view, I've got project managers, where I've got 4 of them available to me. But a resource can be not only an individual, but also a group of individuals as well. And there are a number of properties to be set up behind these resources that determine the way that they work. So if I take, for example, Dan and drop him onto a task, drop him onto that task. I want to allocate John to this task here and that task. Oh, but I can't allocate John to that task. It's saying that we're over allocated because it happens at the same time. So how can we have John doing both of those? We can't. So I'm going to put Kaylee onto that task, and perhaps Laura onto that task. So as you can see, as I've done that, it's building up this histogram here, because we're pointing this histogram at all of our project managers, and we're pointing it at our allocation, availability, and over allocation. This blue line marks the number that we have available to us, which is 4. Number of project managers currently in use during that slice of time. But I can actually right click on here and drill down onto the resource histogram, and it will show me the individuals. So Dan is doing that, I've got John doing that, and that's, again, it's going to highlight to us when we're over allocated. So I've applied these resources. I've got these descendant bars that sit underneath the tasks, and then we can see that this person's doing 8 hours for that task there. This person's doing 48 hours for this task. But I've modeled Dan slightly differently to the others. So if I say that we're going to have half of Dan's time on that task, then basically it's going to increase the length of the task. Whereas if we do the same with John on this task, it's halved it, but the duration has stayed the same. I want the duration of the task to stay the same, even though we're putting half of John's time on there. So that's just something that we're able to do with the modeling, and that happens if we go to right click on then properties in this area here. So we do offer training courses about this, and we can calculate a lot of different things. We can decide what calendar that a resource is working to. And we can configure these different calendars in this area. It's very easy to just right click and go to the properties and just configure the calendars. So we can use different calendars for different resources, for different areas of the program. We can drag them onto different tasks. And we can allocate a cost or an income rate to a resource as well. So a lot of things you can do there. I'm just keeping it simple for now. And another thing we've got as well is we've got this resource search. So if I go to resource search here, I can bring across my project managers. And if I click on a specific task, for example, this one, then I can go to search, check availability, and it's going to check the availability of those project managers on that task for that time. So John and Kaylee aren't available, but actually Laura and Dan are. So I might want to put Laura and assign her onto that task. With these histograms, we can go to a full histogram view. If I right click here, we can export that to Excel. And there's a lot of reporting functionality that we can look at later on in terms of generating reports into Excel, for example. So let's say I'm happy with that. I've allocated my resources. This is my intended program. That's great. If I want to look at costs, then costs work in the same way as resources do. So we use histograms, but instead of what we had before, we're actually pointing these histograms at something else. So project costs this time, and I'm looking at 2 different things, total costs and monthly costs. If I bring back my tasks, I can then go to these different cost centers that I got. And again, there's different properties behind these costs where we can say, is something an income, or is it, is it outgoing? We can decide, is it task work based or is it fixed? Lots of different information there. And then we can actually input the specific amounts into here. We can paste into here from Excel. But as I'm doing that, we've got these histograms that are getting built up. So this is pointing across the total spend, and then below is looking at the monthly breakdown. And again, we can right click and export that to Excel, or we can move that to a full histogram view. So let's get out of the resource and cost view. We're going to go back into the view that we had at the beginning now. And now I want to look at tracking progress. But the first thing I want to do is set what's called a baseline. So if I go to a different view, I'm going to go into a progress view now. So I've got this different table here. I've got an actual start, actual finish, percent complete versus a planned percent complete column. And I've got this drop line here that's dropping down onto the program. So what I've done is I've created 4 weeks worth of progress entry periods, which is very easy to do in this area. We just right click and go to new progress period, give that progress period a date. And so each progress period is going to have a different color drop down, and it's going to jag to where we should be at a specific time on a specific date. So if I go back to week 1, of course, that's going to be the start of our program. So I just mentioned that I want to set a baseline as the first port of call. So I'm going to go into Baseline Manager, New, give it a name. And what we've got now is we've got these yellow descendant bars that sit underneath our tasks. So I can't do anything with these. I can't move them. I can't change them. I can't reduce the duration or increase the duration. You know, they're absolutely fixed. And that's a carbon copy snapshot of my intended program, and that's also captured my resource and my cost information into there as well. So what we're able to do is, as we track changes that are actually happening in actuality, then we can see the knock-on effect of that may have to the program, and then obviously the ongoing knock-on effect to our resources and our costs. So we're going to be able to look at things like our current versus budgeted cost and the variance and lots of things like that. So what I'm going to do now is go to, let's select week 2. It's taking this week 2 line here and it's jagging it to where we should be by the end of week 2. So we should have really just done 100% of that task, and then we're still going to be, you know, in this lag period here. But it's going to tell us in the table what we should have done. So at task level, we should have done 100% of that task, which for this summary is 6.25%. And for the whole coffee shop fit out, it's 2.11%. And for all the projects, that's 2.11% as well. But we can input into here what we have done. So for some reason, you know, we might have done less than that. That would probably work better in this case on week 3. Because we can't do that before we've done that. So I've taken the week 3 line now, and if we put something like 20% into there, 20% into there, so we had to have done 100% in here. But if we now put 20% in here where we should have done 33%, then it's going to color the task 20% and move the jagged line accordingly. Of course, if we had done more, then it's going to do it the other way, right? So it's going to move the jagged line, color the task the other way. But in this case, we've done slightly less than what we should have done. And in the notes, we can put a reason into here as to why that was. But we can also have a link in here to a folder that's on our network, somewhere on our network, that when we click on that, it would open the contents and explain the reason why we're coming in a bit short on this task. So it could be a photo, it could be a document, or an email or something like that. But the magic only really happens when we reschedule. So if I now reschedule this progress entry period against week 3, then it pulls that line straight and moves the tasks out, and we can see the knock-on effect of that against our baseline. So, you know, we're now ending up a little bit behind where we should be. So now our new finish date is here instead of being here. So we can see that we need to just get ourselves back on track by doing what we do. And now if I look at my resources, so go to my resource view, then we can see, you know, has that caused any clashes? Has that caused an overlapping task which might result in an over allocation? In this case, it hasn't. so we're fine there. But then we can also look at costs, and we can see, what has that done to our cash flow? And I can actually point this now at our baseline versus current costs. And we can configure a different table, which might say, planned costs versus actual costs and variance, and we can see it here. And then if we go to the project area, there's a lot of reports that we can then generate. So we've got a budget versus current cost report, or we might want to produce a progress report for a baseline project. So if I click on that, it's the tabular report that we've configured, which you can configure your own, and that goes straight into Excel. So into reports and into this area here. It's put that progress report now straight into Excel. So from there, we can, of course, we can print directly from Power Project. So if I now print this information, go to the print setup view, we've got the project name. I'm using this border here, but there are a range of borders that will come with the software, different sizes. You'll be able to configure the way it looks in terms of, adding logos in, other bits of information around here. There will be a legend that explains what any codes might be that you're using. Then you can print that out like that. And if we bring, we can bring these buttons back that we had before, where we can turn on or off critical tasks or links or the background grids, or we can turn anything off in that area basically. When we close out of that, we're back into the working area. And there you have it really. So it's, one place for creating the program, break it down into different levels of detail, different summary tasks. And then we can allocate resources. We view that with histograms. We use resource search to find out who we've got available to do something. We use the same kind of thing with costs, just dragging and dropping different costs onto the tasks and inputting various amounts using histograms again. Then we want to set baselines, and we're into the actual tracking of the program as it actually progresses, looking at the knock-on effect of that, and being able to have an audit trail of what's gone on and recording clearly, reasons behind that. So there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of different ways you can use Power Project. If you go to File and Help, there's a lot of useful information in that area, but also you can attend one of our training courses, whether in person or over the web. And if you do have any questions, I can take those questions now, but I'll be ending this recording. If you are interested in any of the products that were mentioned at the beginning, or of course Power Project, you can trial Power Project. We can give you a more personalized demonstration, and we've also got a lot of good deals going on in June and July as well. So give us a call on the phone number, send us an email, and we'll help you straight away. Thanks. Bye.